Circe by Madeline Miller, her follow-up to the Song of Achilles, which told the story of Achilles and Patroclus, ripped from the Iliad. This ripped from the Odyssey. So we follow Circe, who is one of the very minor lesser titans, a daughter of Helios, with her kind of amongst all the gods, the titans, and who are kind of rather disgruntled, and the now dominant Olympians, Zeus and his cohort, and she bumps into Prometheus, who is they're still deciding his fate, and indeed this strange sympathy that Prometheus has for humans comes up very much in Circe's story of this strange kind of attraction to them or whatever. She ends up getting banished from the heavenly realms, ends up on a little island in a rather very gilded cage. It's the most amazing kind of Greek island resort that you would ever want to be in. However, she's there for eternity and she can never leave, and so it is indeed a cage. She does get let out briefly, gets to meet up with Daedalus, as there's definitely a certain number of kind of males throughout this book. You could say, it's feminist critique is poor Circe making all her self definitions off of men, So she meets up with Daedalus, who's this very kind of attractive, intelligent, obviously character. He of the Daedalus of the wings with Icarus, and of the the labyrinth or the Minotaur, also helping what turns out to be one of Circe's sisters have sex with a bull, ending up producing the Minotaur. Spoilers, I guess, if you're not that much into Greek mythology. Though if you're not into Greek mythology, I'm not quite sure why you would also be interested in stuff like Circe or Song of Achilles. Maybe, though, it might not be a bad way of kind of introducing yourself to them, and you'd be stunned by all the twists and stuff like that, which you're not. This is just this is extremely well told, kind of trying to invest Circe with kind of the novelist's kind of inner life. Now, I think with the problems I have with this book is the Song of Achilles, that focused actually not as much on really Achilles as his lover in that book, Patroclus, who is very much a human being. Now, the problem is, I'm going to put that down. The problem with this is Circe is, even though this is the most depowered god, this is the most trampled upon, sympathetic, she's still a god. And there's in some ways it's rather hard for me to generate sympathy for that, as this immortal creature, has a little different kind of issues with life than I do, though still, those relationship problems can be tough. Not that this is like just a romantic thing, though there's a lot of romance in here, as there was the beautiful romance in Achilles. There's multiple romances in this, which in some ways, in the Song of Achilles, because there was just a single romance, it was like very powerful. Whereas this one, there's a couple of different dudes that kind of come in and come out. The book starts off with the Greek gods, and maybe it's not surprising that the Greek gods, it comes off like high school. It's like, this is like mean girls, very, very mean girls, especially Scylla, who, suffers a very mean girl fate, you have to say, in the end. And we do get to Odysseus, which is, I guess, the big centerpiece, but this comes in well into it. We've gone through lots and lots of stuff. The main thread of the book does seem to be, Circe and her kind of conflicting stuff with human beings, and with her own sense of kind of a meaning in all of this. I don't know. I felt like we went through kind of like, we tagged through a bunch of mythology. There wasn't that one focus that you get in the Song of Achilles. So while it's all really well told, it didn't end up having the same impact. And Odysseus, he's doesn't make as much of an impact actually in the book as I expected. At the beginning he kind of comes off as the flawless rescue stud, if you know that from romantic movies. But he's actually a very complicated rescue stud. So in that sense, I guess we turn away from that kind of a trope fairly quickly. But I never really kind of get, I get of him as being this, whoa, he's trouble. You better watch your way with him. And he's slippery because, he's Odysseus. He's like the original slippery dude. It's actually, I enjoy how the book and the ends, like who becomes the final dude, is actually, I actually like, oh, no, that makes sense. So yeah, it was a good book. It was an enjoyable book. I half wonder, like Madeline Miller might want to say, okay, I've gone through the Iliad, I've gone through the Odyssey. Maybe I'm going to go on and do something different after this. I feel like this is, sadly to say, it's diminishing returns from the Song of Achilles. If you haven't read the Song of Achilles, read the Song of Achilles first. And then come and enjoy this book, which is a good book, but it's a step down. I mean, maybe you should read the step down and then read this one. But then again, I worry that someone would then to go, oh, I've read enough of that and I'm not going to go on to the Song of Achilles. And you'd say, definitely do the Song of Achilles first. So yeah, I think, as I said, in a very brief blurb, it's no Song of Achilles. It seems to be my theme. It's still a really, really well told, really entertaining book. It just doesn't have quite that kick. It kind of shops around a little too much in the mythology. It's like she had that big inspiration with the first one of this relationship between Achilles and Patroclus, and in the second one, it's like it's Circe and a bunch of dudes, and maybe that's good because it's like, well. But though she finds that dude at the end, that I don't know if each dude represents a part of her travels, but I wanted that to be more about her. But she's this goddess who's also, by the way, a kind of a serial killer. She ends up a serial killer. She's avenging herself of a rape, and so she transforms and murders a bunch of people. And if you know the source material, you know where that comes from. And she's a goddess, so that makes sense, and it makes more sense in the Odyssey as she murdered a ton of people. When you invest her with kind of this more of a novel of a modern psychological. Modern psychology of you're trying to give a goddess human psychology. Well, then if she murders a bunch of people, then she's a serial killer, and it's kind of hard to I find it hard to mesh those, and maybe that's just a failure of my own imagination. I mean, Odysseus also comes home and murders a whole ton of people too. And then in this book, and he murders more people and he murders more people. And that seems to be a spiraling thing of his own paranoia and kind of madness and stuff. And I'm blabbing. Yeah. So read Song of Achilles first. That's my recommendation. More videos later.